Hey guys, got another Game Gear here that's been fully recapped. This one is my wife's, and it's now the third Game Gear that I've successfully fully recapped and have working basically like new. The first one I did, you guys saw the video for that. The second one I did was a coworker's. He had a Game Gear that he's had for since he was a kid, and it wasn't working anymore, and he wanted to get it working. So that was the second one I've done. This is now the third one I've done successfully, although to be honest with you guys, we had one failure. So I could ignore that, and I could say, oh, I've done three, and all three have been perfect, but that's not the truth. The truth of the matter is, this is actually the fourth one I've recapped, the third one that's been successful. So one of them I fully recapped, and even after a full recap it wasn't working properly. It wouldn't load games up. Sometimes when it turned on, the sound chip would squeal random notes, and pressing start would change the note. Swear to God, I wish I took video of this. This is the craziest problem. Even without a game in it, you turn on and it would be just playing a steady note, and you'd hit start and the note would change, random. Sometimes the note would go to a higher pitch note, sometimes it would go to a lower pitch note, but it would only change when you hit start. None of the other buttons did that, so no idea what was wrong with that one. I think possibly something wrong with the sound chip in that one. But it's just a reminder that capacitors aren't the only thing that can go wrong with these. Like I said when I did my first one, you could have other issues with it. You can't just assume that you're going to change the capacitors and it's going to be a perfectly working Game Gear. So anyways, this one's got a tempered glass screen replacement put on it, and so I thought I'd show that. It looks really nice, but it is perfectly flat. You lose that kind of bubble dome that the original screen protector has. Anyways, I'll just grab a random game here and throw it in just to show this thing working. I'll turn the volume up. It's very loud. It's insanely loud. It's a reminder of how loud Game Gears get. I've got a Game Boy Pocket right now that when I'm in if I got the windows open and there's a little bit of outside noise, it's like I can barely hear it. The DMGs are a little bit louder, but the Pockets definitely are a little on the quiet side. Game Gear, though, there's definitely no issues there. It's not one of these systems that you have to put a amplifier mod chip in to make it loud enough. These things stock are plenty loud. So yeah, this is a perfectly working Game Gear now. So it's now my second, again. This is the first one that I did in the video that you guys saw. It still has the original screen protector on it. That one's working perfectly fine. And then this one is, again, this was my wife's. This one was a bit older. This is the first one I've done. It was the dual ASIC variant of the motherboard. But really not that different. It's just a couple of capacitors on the motherboard itself that are different. The power supply and the soundboard are the same. So it's actually really not that different as far as doing the recap. Anyways, this has got Eneloop Pros in it again. Got rechargeable batteries in there. And yeah, it's basically in perfect condition with that aftermarket screen cover on there. While I had these out and I have all the games out, I figured we would just go over all the games. Again, just as a reminder that there's actually a lot of good games on the Game Gear. I don't think enough people give it credit for that. They just assume, other than the Sonic games, what else is there, really? And I've always liked the Game Gear, and there is a lot of great games on the Game Gear. So I guess I'll just grab some. Obviously, here I've got a couple copies of Sonic the Hedgehog, and I've got a couple copies of Sonic the Hedgehog 2. That's pretty common. Those are both really common games. A lot of times when you buy a Game Gear, used Game Gear, it's going to come with one of those two games. More often than not, probably Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Probably one of the most common games you're going to find on it. Those games are okay, but I actually think Sonic Chaos and Sonic Triple Trouble are both better 8-bit handheld Sonic games. This is basically, I think, the third and the fourth, at least of the mainstream Sonic platforming games, not counting like Drift or Tails Adventure. There's some oddball ones there, but if the mainline Sonic platforming games, this would basically be the third and the fourth. And these are both better, in my opinion, these are both better than the first two. And again, not as common, not exactly rare, but you'll find millions of copies of Sonic 2. You got to look a little bit harder to find these ones. But yeah, they're actually, I think, both better Sonic games. I'm just going to start grabbing them randomly, so they're not going to necessarily be in order. This is Tesserae, if I'm pronouncing that properly. It's a strange little puzzle game. Honestly, not a huge fan of it. Not all these games are winners here, guys. We've got Tasmania. This game's not great, and honestly, I don't think the Taz games, even on the Genesis, were that great. So I wasn't really surprised that it wasn't that great. I've got Columns, and while I'm looking through my pile, I've got Super Columns. Columns, I believe, was a pack-in game with the Game Gear. If you bought it at launch and it came with a game, it came with Columns. They eventually sold the Game Gear, like the core system, a little bit cheaper, where it didn't come with the game. But I think originally they came with Columns, and there's Super Columns. Got Clacks as well. Yeah, that's actually most of the mediocre ones out of the way. Well, when I say that, we've got another licensed game here. This is X-Men Mojo World, and from what I recall, this one's not too great either. Again, probably not a big surprise, but looking around here, it looks like from here on out, we're going to be doing pretty good. So yeah, how about Earthworm Jim? Did you even know Earthworm Jim was on the Game Gear? An 8-bit version of Earthworm Jim. It was also on the Sega Master System, as is the case with most of these games. If you're not aware, the Sega Game Gear is like 99% the same hardware as a Sega Master System. So much so to the point you can play Sega Master System games on a Game Gear with a little adapter. So yeah, the Game Gear's a lower resolution, smaller screen, but it can display more colors on screen instead. But that's basically it. It's basically the same as a Master System. So Earthworm Jim is actually a decent little port, considering it's an 8-bit port of a 16-bit game. And I guess you could say the same with this one. Dynamite Headdy. Again, did you even know Dynamite Headdy was on the Game Gear? I'm willing to bet a lot of you didn't. Well, maybe some of my viewers did, but... And no surprise here, this really, again, has amazing graphics, especially for an 8-bit port. Very colorful, runs really smooth, there's not a lot of slowdown, even though there's a lot of stuff going on the screen at a time. It actually plays really well. Got the Lion King. To be honest, I haven't really played the Lion King, there's another Disney one here. The Lion King or the Jungle Book. To be honest, haven't really played these. They're both Virgin, so they're probably decent. I mean, Disney games in general, usually pretty decent. So, yeah, they're probably decent games, just honestly, I haven't really played them. I will. Some of the Disney games that I have played that I can absolutely recommend, well, actually, we'll start with this one. Aladdin. Aladdin on the Game Gear is pretty impressive graphically. Maybe not the best gameplay. The first couple levels are these sort of never-ending running. What do you call those things? You basically can't stop running. and you just got to jump at the right time, basically. But the graphics in this are amazing. There's a lot of unique 3D effects. Almost reminds me of Toy Story on the Genesis, where they've got these like line scrolling interrupt depth effects on the top of the buildings, and then I don't know what you would call it. It's just it's just like a square, basically, just a basic geometry shape on the screen, but you basically make a square on the side of the building and change the angle as it moves, and it makes it look like the side of the building has depth. Again, it's very similar to something that was done in Toy Story on the Sega Genesis, but it really makes the buildings look 3D, so it's pretty impressive. Now, Legend of Illusion, starring Mickey Mouse. I've shown this game. I did a review for this game many, many years ago, and this is a great game. Most of the Mickey Mouse games on Sega are. Land of Illusion, I believe I've also done a review for this one. In fact, I think I like this one better, if I remember correctly. This one, I believe, is older, but very much the Castle of Illusion sort of sequel. So it's very similar to Castle of Illusion, which was also on the 8-bit, and on the Master System. And then Deep Duck Trouble, starring Donald Duck. This one's actually really good. And oh no, that's Tom and Jerry. I was about to say that one's really good, but probably not. I thought that was this one. The Lucky Dime Caper, starring Donald Duck. This is a really good game too. So again, most of the Mickey Mouse, the Donald Duck, most of those games pretty good on the Game Gear. Yeah, well, there's Tom and Jerry. Don't know if I've played this one. I think I did, and it wasn't very good. Tom and Jerry the movie. Who would be surprised if that wasn't very good? Ren and Stimpy. Quest for the Shaven Yak. I did a review on this one years ago. And again, this was an amazing game. Great gameplay. Ran really well. Good graphics. Yeah, it's actually a really good game on the Game Gear. Possibly one of the best Ren and Stimpy games. Although Ren and Stimpy on the Genesis was actually pretty good too. Stimpy's Invention. I think that one was pretty good. I think they were better than the Super Nintendo ones, if I remember correctly. Although I think I've only played one of the Super Nintendo ones. I think there's 2 Ren and Stimpy games for Genesis, and there's 2 Ren and Stimpy games for the Super Nintendo. Although I could be totally wrong about that. There's definitely at least 2 for the Super Nintendo. Another game I'm not too familiar with. Don't know if I've played this one much, so I can't say too much about that one. Super Monaco Gp2. It's actually not bad for an 8-bit racing game. That's trying to be somewhat realistic. I think they did an okay job on that one. I've got Mortal Kombat 1 and 2, and I actually like both of these quite a lot. But the first one, I think, graphically is very impressive, but it shows that they tried too much for an 8-bit handheld, and so the controls are very laggy, and it's really hard to pull off the moves. But I think for what they did, porting a Mortal Kombat game to an 8-bit handheld, I think they did okay, but they did a lot better with Mortal Kombat 2. Basically, the graphics are still great for an 8-bit handheld, but it runs a little bit smoother. It's a little bit easier to pull off the moves. So I mean, if you're only going to get one, just get Mortal Kombat 2, I guess. But I don't know, I have a nostalgic sort of soft spot for that one. And then Streets of Rage 2. Now, I owned one of the Streets of Rage games for the Game Gear back in the day. I honestly can't remember if it was the first one or the second one. But either way, this is an amazing game. I did a review on this actually pretty recently. If you haven't seen that, definitely check it out. The Streets of Rage 2 is super impressive on the Game Gear. Also did a review on this one pretty recently. Revenge of Dracon, or Drancon. It's Wonder Boy, as I mentioned in the review. This is basically I was going to say a port. Well, I guess a port of the arcade Wonder Boy. It was basically the Master System version of Wonder Boy, and it's actually really good. And I guess last but not least, I got Bust a Move, which is, I guess needs no explanation. Fun little puzzle game. First played it in the arcades in probably 1996. I assume the game's older than that. I wasn't familiar with it until I first saw it in the arcades in about 1996. I remember it was in the movie theater, probably going to see the movie Twister. Was that 1996? 1995, 1996, the movie Twister. And yeah, my buddy was like, hey, it's Bust a Move, let's play it. And I had no idea what it was, and needless to say, now I do. So anyways, bunch of Game Gear games here, and honestly, Ren and Stimpy's good, Wonder Boy's good, Super Monaco GP's good, Streets of Rage 2 is excellent, Land of Illusion is good. I think Legend of Illusion, from what I remember, is okay. I'm not going to put it in the good pile. I'm going to put it in the probably okay pile. Lucky Dime Caper starring Donald Duck is good. X-Men, probably not. I'm going to put it in the probably not. Tom and Jerry, the movie, probably not. Super Columns is good. Deep Duck Trouble is good. Mortal Kombat is in the okay pile, but Mortal Kombat 2 is going to go in the good pile. Bust a Move goes in the good pile. This one I'm not sure about, but it's probably not good. I think Jungle Book and Lion King I'm going to put in the possibly okay pile. Dynamite Headdy definitely goes in the good pile. And really, all four Sonic games, I guess, can go in the good pile. Although, like I said, Sonic Chaos and Sonic Triple Trouble definitely go in the good pile. Tasmania and the probably not. Actually, it's pretty bad. It's going to go in the bad pile. This one, I'm not sure. It's a puzzle game. That's going to go in the probably good pile. Aladdin's going to go in the good pile. My pile's getting so tall it's falling over. Clacks I'm not too sure about, so I'll put it in the maybe okay pile. Columns is good, I guess, if you're into puzzle games. Earthworm Jim is definitely good. So, that's what I'm talking about. That's mostly good games. These ones are pretty bad, and these ones are possibly okay. Again, a couple of puzzle games here that I'm not super familiar with, and like the Jungle Book and the Lion King, which I'm not familiar enough with. They might be good. Mortal Kombat and Legend of Illusion, probably good. So, I mean, most of these are kind of over here, too. Yeah, I mean, we got some stinkers here, for sure. Definitely, I remember Tasmania being pretty terrible. But there's a lot of good games on the Game Gear, and, you know, there's a lot that I don't have. There's a Shinobi game on the Game Gear that's pretty good. There's a Road Rash game on the Game Gear that's pretty good. I think Outrun is on the Game Gear, because it was on the Master System. There's a lot of good Game Gear games that I haven't got. Hopefully I will get more of them, because I definitely like collecting for it. I do like playing the Game Gear, and I now have two fully working Game Gears, and oh man, the volume was down. We missed the best part. We can't miss the best. Turn the volume all the way up. Let's try that again. Oh yeah, so loud, so good. But no, I love the Game Gear. I didn't own one during, well, I guess I kind of got one near the very end of its lifespan. I had a Game Boy growing up. You know, I got a Game Boy pretty early, in 1990, I think I got a Game Boy. My grandma bought it for me for my birthday, if I remember correctly. And so, I grew up with a Game Boy, and I remember bringing it to school. When I was in grade school, every so often in grade school, you would have that sort of like, the last day of the year where you wouldn't do any work. It would be like a pizza day, and everyone would bring in video games or board games or whatever. And I always remember, me bringing my Game Boy. Most of my friends had Game Boys too, but a few kids in the class that had their Game Gear. And I remember, I always liked the Game Gear. Not to say I didn't like the Game Boy, or not to say I liked it better than the Game Boy. I loved my Game Boy. I had Super Mario Land, Super Mario Land 2. I had Battletoads. I had a lot of Game Boy games that I liked. And I certainly liked the Game Boy. Super C, I remember. Was it Super C? There was a Super C Contra game on the Game Boy. I remember playing back then that I actually don't have now. So there's one I need to find. Anyways, point is, I always loved the Game Gear. The first time I saw a Game Gear was in a Sears, and they had one on display with columns in it on like a kiosk stand thing where you could play it. And that was the first time I saw a Game Gear, was in a Sears. And, the fact that it was a color screen, it blew my mind. I was like 10 years old, right? So, 10 years old in 1991. Yeah. So, yeah, I've always loved the Game Gear. I picked up my first Game Gear in probably 1995. I think I've mentioned that before. And with a bunch of games. It came with Mortal Kombat or Mortal Kombat 2, and then I got Streets of Rage 1 or 2, I can't remember. I had one of the Sonic games. I think I just had Sonic 2, although I might have had Sonic 1 and Sonic 2 back in 1995, 1996. So, yeah, I had a Game Gear, but it was really late in its life. It was arguably dead, I would say. By the time I got the Game Gear, I don't know if there was many games, if any games, coming out by 1995. I guess there might have been a few, but it was basically dead, end of life. Yeah, I remember. I used to have to ride the train a lot back in like 1995, 1996, and so I had a Game Gear, and I bought the battery pack that screws onto the back. This big thing that screwed on the back, and it screwed into this little screw hole here. And it was basically a giant rechargeable battery, and it had like a little cord that came out of the battery and popped into the power input. And then you used the power plug to charge it, so it had like its barrel plug on the battery. And it probably went for 3 hours, which is like basically what these Eneloop Pros go for. So again, I think it's pretty awesome now that we've got rechargeable batteries that are good enough to run a Game Gear for 3 hours, whereas back in the day, rechargeable batteries would probably go like an hour. So if you wanted 3 hours of playtime, you basically bought the giant rechargeable battery pack thing. But yeah, again, I loved the Game Gear. Even in 1995, 1996, I just remembered a game I had for it that I don't have now. It was, what the heck? What is that real-time? It's not real-time, it's turn-based. It's like a turn-based RPG series. Shining Force. There's a Shining Force game on the Game Gear that I had. And I'm not even a big, like, tactical RPG fan. I'm not even an RPG fan if it's an adventure-style one. Some of them I like Final Fantasy Adventure, or those games on the Game Boy, I don't mind. If they're simple enough, RPG elements, but have some adventure elements. But the tactical ones where it's just the fighting, it's like the fighting is my least favorite part of an RPG. I like the exploring and all that. So I've never been a big fan of really any tactical RPGs, but yet I liked Shining Force on the Game Gear. I remember playing that quite a bit, again, on the train with my giant rechargeable battery. Yeah, I remember liking that Shining Force game. So I'll have to pick that one up. There's another good game for the Game Gear. Again, there's a lot of good games for the Game Gear. you know, a lot more than many people give it credit for. Wasn't as popular as the Game Boy. Obviously, the Game Boy was cheaper and the battery life was much better, and that's what most of us got. But, you know, it was a heck of a competing option, wasn't it? I think it really was. So anyways, yeah, I think this video's been more than long enough. And that's my Game Gear collection for now. It will grow as I enjoy collecting for it and still play it, you know, to this day. I was playing Aladdin the other day on there. I played all the Sonic games. I beat Sonic Chaos and Triple Trouble on the actual Game Gear. Yeah, it's a fun little thing to play. I find it very comfortable in the hands. And the speaker on it is so loud. I play my Game Boy Pocket now, and it's all the way up, and I can barely hear it, and it's like, that is not an issue with the Game Gear. Again, anyways, this gone on way too long. I'm going to put all these games in here. Believe it or not, they all fit in here. I fit most of them up in the top part. Well, actually, not even most of them. I guess half of them up in the top part, and then I kind of cram all the others in here. This is a spot where there was an optional rechargeable. I got the TV tuner for that, too. I'm getting distracted, aren't I? Yeah, I got the working TV tuner. Well, I mean, the TV tuner works. It just doesn't pick up any analog TV because there isn't any around here. I was going to say there isn't any anymore. That's actually not true. In the United States, there is still some low-power analog TV broadcasting. It's mostly going to be in like large cities, like in Los Angeles. For example, there is at least one low-power analog TV channel that's still broadcasting, and because it's low power, it doesn't have a lot of range. So you've got to be basically in that city or part of the city even to get it. But there is still analog TV out there, so potentially you could use that somewhere. It still works, just not here. But yeah, this is a spot where there's basically two official style rechargeable batteries for the Game Gear. I think originally this one, which was like this giant thing with a pocket clip and a long cable on it, is sort of similar to the Game Boy one back in the day. But then later on, they came with that one that screws onto the back. I don't remember what's supposed to go here. What would go there? I mean, it already has room for the TV tuner to fit in it. It's got room for the charger plug, and that's pretty obviously meant for the plug. That's meant for the battery. I can't remember what would have went there. Maybe it's obvious and I'm just not thinking about it right now. But yeah, basically I just cram those in there, like so. And then between the top part and the bottom part, I can get them all in there. So yeah, handy little thing to have, this case. For collecting. As you can see, I have a lot of the games in these. It's because I actually bought, you know, a lot of times when I buy the games, they're just loose, right? Like in a pawn shop or a thrift store, I find the games on Facebook Marketplace or whatever, and they're just the loose cartridge. Because like half the games I own here for this, I bought in the last like year. Yeah, so I actually went out of my way to find these things. I bought like probably like 12 of these actually pretty recently. I just bought a bunch of these. Same for the Game Boy. I like having all my Game Boy games in the similar style case that they came with. So I actually bought about probably 12 of these for the Game Boy as well. Anyways, wow, okay, that's really it this time. See you guys later.